local government because all TDs care about is local issues. The fact of the matter is the TD who you're electing to represent your national views is more concerned with buses and telegraph poles falling on your house than he is concerned with Ireland's foreign policy, Ireland's overall economic policy, all these kind of policies. And this is ably demonstrated whenever we see the fact that all the government's policies geared towards is providing jobs to satisfy their different constituencies, such as decentralisation. There was no self-correction here. All Fianna Fáil were concerned with is making themselves more powerful. But the real damage of this parochial mentality is it prevents ourselves from actually changing the situation. When you concern the nation and all other political parties with local matters, effectively recognizing any kind of local government as completely obsolete, where is the national identity supposed to go? And that is the fact of the matter, ladies and gentlemen. We have no national identity as such. Fianna Fáil, because they are empty, because they are baseless, has prevented us from even understanding where we can go as a nation. And how do we change that? We think it's incredibly difficult to change that. We don't think we actually have, in the near future, an ability to change that. Sure, they're changing now and having the tough measures of reversing the incredible deference they showed towards the public service now. But the fact of the matter, again, it's reactionary, it's populist, and it is based on the fact that they have controlled the people with this parochial mentality. We just got to go back again. Why should we not owe these people a debt of gratitude? Because they're literally an avatar for base populist concerns. To champion that as something that's good is frankly perverse from the proposition. Because what you need for democracy to work is for someone to stand by a policy. Because you need power to be a way of implementing a policy, not policy as a means to power. The greatest crime that Fianna Fáil have perpetrated is robbing us of a national consciousness, a national political consciousness for us to better this state. The intelligentsia is completely abhorred the political scene. So for this reason, for the fact that we owe them no debt because they have robbed us of what this nation could be, we beg to oppose.
Thank you, Ian. Also from the LNH, but speaking from the opposite, for the proposition, Owen Sheehy.
Ladies and gentlemen, in 1927, De Valera took the oath of allegiance. In doing so, he renounced Sinn Féin and ideological republicanism. He also embraced pragmatic republicanism in that process. He knew his aims, he knew that he had to use different means to get them. In doing so, he also committed him and his party to a future where the mantra was, do not let dogmatism get in the way of what is best for Ireland. Because Fianna Fáil, through this abhorrence of dogmatism, and also through their integral, as one would say, tying themselves to the Irish nation, we ought to be grateful, as we are Ireland. We are the Irish nation. We are, in a sense, the product and directly linked to Fianna Fáil. Mr. Hastings had a number of issues with what we are saying and what we believe. He mistook what we believe is making change palatable, like De Valera did with the treaty in the 30s, with an absence of courage. No, thank you. Instead, De Valera turned what was to a significant minority, something which was totally an aberration in the Irish society, and made it palatable to all. I will discuss that further. He did so without incurring the wrath of England to any great degree, or the ire of those who were against it in Ireland either. Also, we had a discussion of politics, corruption in politics, rather. We say that it is unfortunate that there is bad amongst the good. Charles Haughey is an example of this. Sure. We say, first of all, he is not representative, and second of all, Fianna Fáil are actually quite a transparent party when push comes to shove. We have tribunals in a way that is not natural for other countries in Europe to have tribunals. We soul search, thanks to Fianna Fáil, in a way that many other political systems, like the French presidency, do not. And as such, we ought to be grateful to them for that. Finally, we had a discussion about identity and how we have no identity. I am comfortable in saying, as an Irishman, that I have identity. My identity isn't linked to whether I'm left-wing or I'm right-wing, it is in fact linked to my being Irish, and that is where Mr. Hastings mistakes us. But let's talk about some substantive material now. How Fianna Fáil define Ireland and the political system. Until 32, it was becoming clear that Fine Gael or Cumann na Gael had a certain interest in tying themselves to the British. This was, again, to a significant minority, not a palatable decision to make. De Valera made this palatable to all. He brought a once divided nation together in the best way that was possible. Even better, he did so in a way that was not possible under any alternative. No thanks. The true foundations for the Irish state began in 1932 as we began to fight for what is Ireland, what is a sovereign, independent, individual Ireland, a path which Fianna Fáil put us on through De Valera and continued with Lemass and throughout its history. No thanks, Ian. We think that our constitution is representative of that. Sure, it has indeed been amended by the people through referenda down through the ages, but it is still, however many years on, a good indication of the thoughts and the actions and how we govern those things in Irish, or not govern, how we live by those things in Irish society in a time it has taken France to get through 3. No thank you, Ian. We say that of all the European countries who gained independence after the First World War, Ireland is the only one to have maintained steady democracy. What happened when other similarly Catholic countries like Spain and Portugal went through this period of unrest? They turned to corporatism or to fascism. De Valera, through many mechanisms, as was highlighted by our first proposition, but also in general, had many mechanisms for bringing the Irish people together, using different strands of ideology and different beliefs which people shared. No thank you. Ireland is only the country it is now because of it having gained, no thank you, proper independence from England, because it could stay neutral during the Second World War and need not commit it, the surest test of a nation. Because Lemass opened up Ireland economically, because we allied ourselves to Europe when we felt it necessary and not when others felt it necessary. These events don't rouse the blood like 1916, but they are no less important to who we are as people, to how we interact with one another. We are a product of our history and those people who form our history, those being Fianna Fáil. I'll take you in a second. The good we see in Ireland right now as a result is a direct result of the symbiotic nature of Fianna Fáil in Irish politics and Fianna Fáil and the Irish people. Please, Ian.
From 1945 to 1986, the gross national product per person of Ireland was half the world's mean. They isolated us. Our identity was one of isolation and one of intellectual vacuum. Do you say that that's a good national identity for De Valera to bring everyone into the Irish flag under?
We say that that is, first of all, not true, and second of all, not vindicated by the fact that intelligentsia controlling politics isn't necessarily a good thing. But even more so, the most important part of Ireland as a national identity in the Fianna Fáil years in that period is, in fact, there were things more important to Irish people than economic prosperity. Yes, we all like economic prosperity when it comes along, but generally speaking, there are other things which Irish people want at the time. When we're getting onto heroic pragmatism and how that was affected through Ireland, De Valera knew that he had to change his ways to achieve his aims. We see this evidenced in the way Fianna Fáil have been throughout the ages, but as well as that, are now. Brian Lenihan is making an important personal sacrifice when he gives the Irish public a unpalatable budget. He does not gain from that. Brian Lenihan and Brian Cowan do not retire to massive mansions and lives of luxury. They possess talents which would get them more glamour, more wealth in the private sphere. They do the best for their country out of love of their country. Were this not the case, they have other avenues available to them. What we're thinking on this side of the house is they have a very good reason for doing this. They want to give of themselves. They will take our enmity when the times are bad, and they will still work through it like they do now. We see this echoing throughout Fianna Fáil's history, from the lowest constituent to the highest De Valera or the leader of the party, whoever it may be. It is to their credit they continue to act on our behalf, because there are other things they could do were they not committed to us and drawn to us as a people. For this reason, we would ask you to propose.
Thank you, Owen. And now to speak for the opposition from the Hist at TCD, Niamh Ní Mhailleoin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, adjudicators, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. In 1926, Ireland gained a new national movement, a movement with a principle, a belief that the Irish Free State was so incompatible with Republican ideals that no true Republican could enter its illegitimate parliament and take an oath to a foreign queen. So great was their commitment to this ideal that in the Civil War they fought for it and they died for it, they killed for it. A year later, in 1927, with no perceptible change, Fianna Fáil entered the Dáil, and they took the oath. What Owen didn't mention is that the Civil War dead were still dead, apparently for the sake of an empty formula. But Fianna Fáil had discovered a thirst for power far more pressing than any one political ideology. That first action set the tone for 84 years of Fianna Fáil dominance. They have consistently put themselves ahead of Ireland. They have squandered the opportunities we have given them, and through their self-centred, small-minded and unprincipled politics, they have cheapened the Irish political state. Niall and I are not willing to thank them. We don't think that you should thank them, and we certainly don't think that Ireland owes them any debt of gratitude. We expect better than a politics that just manages not to annoy anyone. But as everyone has agreed, tonight's discussion isn't about any particular Fianna Fáil policy, and that's because they don't have any consistent policy. We're talking about a party that claims neutrality, but that will let American planes land at Shannon. We're talking about a party that employed massive levels of protectionism in the 30s and then claimed credit for opening Ireland up to trade in the 60s. We're talking about a party that claims to cherish all children of the nation equally. But under the Fianna Fáil constitution, instead of making this speech tonight, I should be making my teammate a sandwich. And yes, this is reflective of a broader problem in Irish politics, because neither of our centrist parties has a fixed ideology, and that means that Irish politics becomes not about the realisation of principle, but about the attainment of power. Having mentioned those two parties, I question, no thank you, the proposition's claim that we don't have a divided politics when on Wednesday afternoon, Willie O'D shouted the words blue shirts across the Dáil. But there are plenty of reasons that we do vote Fianna Fáil. There are plenty of reasons that they've spent so much time in power. They're very good at elections. Our families voted Fianna Fáil. They make us personalised promises, and they're often a lot better than anyone else. That is not a reason that we have to thank them. They thank us for putting them in power. No thank you. Yes, they have kept the country ticking over. Yes, they have done some service. But when you give a party 60 out of 84 years in government, you expect better than average. We gave them the opportunity that most political parties in the world dream of. The chance to build a nation, the Ireland that we dreamed of, the Ireland that we fought for. And before I go on, I'll take Neil.
Perhaps the reason we kept giving them that chance was because they were doing a good job and defining the nation in a way that we liked.
Or perhaps we kept on giving them that opportunity because of what I told you already, because they were possibly better than the other mediocre party that was the alternative. We are not comparing Fianna Fáil to Fine Gael. We are comparing Fianna Fáil to what Fianna Fáil could have been, and that was something more. Because even in an Ireland where Catholics are allowed to go to Trinity and we all shop in Marks and Spencer's, the word Republican isn't something, no thank you, that you can just toss around. When they call themselves the Republican Party, we think that that means something. So what was the struggle for independence for? It wasn't so that we could repaint the post boxes. If all you wanted was that your pothole be filled, the British would have done that better. I have a lot to get through. Let's not clap at everything. It was because we believed in a greater Ireland. We believed that Ireland had a set of values that could not be understood by foreign government. We wanted Ireland to stand among the great nations of the world, to be a nation to whom no one would say, you will go this far and no further. What we got was Irish solutions to Irish problems, and a lot done, no thank you, a lot more to do. Yes, we joined Europe. They might like to think in that way we stand among the great nations of the world. But twice in the last decade, when Ireland has exercised its franchise, Europe has said no, you got democracy wrong, and Fianna Fáil has rolled over and accepted it. Niall and I are not asking for more comely maidens dancing at roundabouts. We are just asking for an Ireland we can be proud of. And Fianna Fáil haven't delivered that, no thank you. And yes, the elephant in the room is corruption, because we are willing to accept mistakes on the part of our government. We are not willing to accept willful wrongdoing. And Owen might tell us that it is one rotten apple in the barrel, but that doesn't apply when the rotten apple is the leader and when he has a private island. They know what is going on, and every time, no thank you, the party faithful rally around Bertie Ahern, Charlie Haughey, Willie O'Dea, or any other Irish politician with a patchy memory, they make a mockery of the Irish state. No thank you. Fianna Fáil's failure to address the issue of corruption has shattered our trust in Irish politics. Their lack of leadership has shattered our trust in Irish politics. But ultimately, corruption is emblematic of something more. It's emblematic of the fact that Fianna Fáil will always put themselves ahead of Ireland. The proposition has asked us, what's wrong with a pragmatic politics where we attend to people's individual needs? The problem is that that suits Fianna Fáil very well, because to give every Fianna Fáil voter, be he a barrister or a breakfast roll man, one thing that he really wants is an easy way to make sure he votes Fianna Fáil again. But ultimately, one person gets their pothole filled in, the country does not get an infrastructure. One person gets a hip replacement, the country does not get a health service, and you get a series of politically expedient individuals for Fianna Fáil, but you don't get a national community. The problem that we have to acknowledge is that politics is more than individuals getting what they want. Sometimes we ask the government of a republic not to give us what we want, and instead to give us what we need, to give others what they need, or to do what is right. We expect them to make difficult calls. In 1926, Ireland gained a new political movement, a movement with a principle, and we gave them the opportunity to build a nation. 84 years later, we are left with one of the most difficult questions ever posed to the Irish nation. Was it for this? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Niamh. And now for the proposition, I call on Sean Butler from NUI Galway.
$800 years. Mr. Chair, Madam Other Chair, ladies and gentlemen, for 800 years, the people of Ireland have moaned and complained about absolutely everything that has gone wrong and every little problem that has come in their way. We have complained about the weather, about our inexorable sporting failures, about the price of the pint. But we complain about our political overlords more than anything. And after our colonial oppressors left us, we flirted with complaining about the Irish Free State for a while, but soon we settled into a comfort zone, as it were, of complaining about the political monolith that has dominated our nation. That monolith is Fianna Fáil. Complaining about Fianna Fáil has consumed so much of the national ether, as it were, has become so important to the collective consciousness of our identity that it is what defines us as a people. It is ultimately what makes us Irish more than a leprechaun or a harp or a flag. The modern Irish everyman is the one who complains about Fianna Fáil but still votes for him. Sure, we tried No thanks. Sure, we tried the other shower for a while, but we slowly grew and we slowly learned